Welcome. This is the Lifetime Cashflow through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is where you'll learn strategies to help you achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host, Riyad Khleif, has owned over 2,000 homes and apartments, and he brings experts in all aspects of real estate investment and management onto the show. Now, here's your host, Riyad Khleif.
Welcome to Lifetime Cashflow through Real Estate Investing podcast. I'm Riyad Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. Before we get to our guest, I want to mention a couple of quick things. The first being, if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to us so you never miss an episode on iTunes. Subscribe on iTunes, that is. And I also want to let you know that every week I also do one of two short 5 to 10 minute shows. The first being your driving force success tip, and that's where I talk about the psychology of success, and then the second being my real estate success tips, real estate tip of the week, and so it's one or the other every week, and they're only 3 to 5 minutes, and I, in my personal opinion, think they're very valuable. So highly recommend you listen to those as well. As many people don't realize, 80% of success in anything is your psychology, and 20% is the actual mechanics. So. And the real estate tips are really what they are, is great tips for anybody in multifamily real estate investing. And then lastly, and most importantly, I really want to hear what you guys think. If you've got any comments or questions or even suggestions for guests or topics that you might like to hear on the show, let me know. You can email me directly at rod@rodkhleif.com. That's rod at RODKHLEIF as in Frank.com. And I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get this show on the road. I know you're going to get incredible value from the guy we're talking to today. His name is Mackal Smith, and he goes by Mack. He is a successful real estate investor, but he's got an interesting story. He actually has a full-time job, and I'll let him tell you about that. And he's kind of doing this on the side very successfully. So, Mack, I'm very thrilled you're on the show.
Great, Rod. I'm really happy to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Expand on my short introduction there, because I kind of wanted it to be in your words. So tell us your history and then how you got into real estate, how long you've been into real estate, and what your success has been so far.
Sure, sounds great. So I started off in the technology industry. I guess about maybe almost 40 years ago. So I've been around for a good long time. I've worked for the largest software developer in the world for the past 20 years, and continue to do so today. And I started really, in terms of investing, about 36 years ago, my mother-in-law, when I first got married, gave me a small house that was sitting flat on the ground, didn't have any foundation around it. And so my wife and I fixed that thing up, and we actually had a garage in the back that we also fixed up, and we were trying to move into a better house, so we moved into the garage in the back. We rented out the house in the front, and I can tell you that I was a terrible property manager. We lived that way for a couple of years, and basically the first guy that showed up that had cash to go into the house, he was the guy that I let in. I didn't have any type of screening that I did for any of that, so we lived like that for a couple of years, and then moved into our first property, and I sold that rental property as quickly as I could and said, I don't ever want to do this again. And then, sure enough, here we are 36 years later. And last year I started investing in properties again. I really like multifamily properties, and I really like small multifamily properties. And so I primarily invest in duplexes, fourplexes, and triplexes.
What market are you in, Mack? Where are you? What city are you in?
In St. Louis, and I'm really lucky to be in St. Louis, and it's different than a lot of places in the country. Rents are fairly high, property costs are actually fairly low, so it's a pretty easy to get into the real estate market here, and we've got a really strong rental market here, so it's a great place to invest.
Fantastic. So I know that you have your full-time job, and you're literally doing this on the side, which is, in my opinion, inspiring for those of you in the same situation. So tell us what you've done this last year.
Well, I started off with a single property. It was a triplex that I got into last year, and I was making really good cash flow off that triplex. I bought it at a decent price, about $120,000. I got one unit rents for $975 and the other two rent for $550. And so after after all my costs, I had, really nice cash flow coming in off of that. I liked it so much that I bought a second duplex last year, and then I kind of sat on them for a while. And then at the end of last year, I kind of made a resolution that since I had 5, I wanted to pick up 8 more units by the end of 2016. And sure enough, in January, February, and March, I did that. And so now I've kind of had to change my goals for the year. So I'm setting at 13 units right now. I'm looking at trying to acquire at least another 8 units, if not more, before the end of the year this year.
So let's talk about how you're structuring your deals. Let's get into the meat of this. Firstly, I think people are going to want to know how you're funding these transactions. So let's talk about the first couple and how you finance them, and if you did anything creatively, or you went to the local bank, or what sorts of things you did to get these properties closed.
Sure. So for the first 2 last year, I just used I took personal loans out for those. And I think a lot of people kind of start that way. And then, but to be honest with you, I'm probably in a little bit different place than a lot of other investors, because I'm pretty far along in the career. I've had, with the technology company I'm with right now, I've had a number of, stock options, stock grants kind of along the way. So what I started doing was I would cash in enough stock to make the down payment, and then I would go to the bank and pick up a loan, to finance the rest.
I see. And these are loans. You said personal loans. I assume these are still loans secured by the properties, correct?
They are secured by the properties, and then I did those first 2 in my wife and my name and my wife's name last year. But then at the beginning of this year, when I recognized that I needed to grow a little bit, I figured, I need to start a company, and I need to protect some assets a little bit. So I created an LLC. I actually created warranty deeds for those 2 properties and moved them under the LLC, and then all the new properties I'm acquiring are bought under the LLC. And
that's great.
I started doing.
Can I interject something right there, Mack?
Sure.
I want to interject something right there, because I'm going to suggest something to you and anybody that's listening, and that is, you guys have all heard the analogy of the rotten apple. And, and I take asset protection, and I've always taken asset protection to a whole nother level, really kind of an insane level, but I'm not going to suggest what I did to you guys, but I'm going to tell you that I would not recommend putting too many properties in one LLC. LLCs are $100 to form. Yes, you've got to pay for the tax preparation, but I will tell you that, I try not to put more than probably about 10 properties of this size, single-family homes or plexes, in one LLC, because if something happens, God forbid something horrible happens and they get past your insurance, it can literally deplete the entire asset, all the assets in the LLC, which is why a lot of, if you buy larger properties, I would say from 10 units on up, I would highly recommend you put each one of those in an individual LLC and have that LLC owned by an operating LLC. So I just want to throw that out there, that I just to be careful how many you put in one LLC. Okay, so that please continue. I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah, no, that's some great advice, and I actually got the same advice from my lawyer, and so that's kind of my plan. Was I figured I'd put about 10 under, and then I may actually even move those out as I build an additional equity into those, because right now they're financed pretty much all of them at 80%, so there is some equity in each of those. But as the equity grows, it makes more sense to move them out. So I plan on doing that as well.
Good. Play it safe. Absolutely. Yep. All right.
But anyway, like I was saying, my plan had been I would sell enough stock to get the down payments. I would go get commercial loans basically for the properties, and that was working great until my CPA this year came back and said, "Hey, you've got to quit doing that. We're going to push you into the highest tax bracket that you can be if you continue to sell that stock." And so it made. Go ahead.
No, please continue. That's very interesting.
Well, it made me rethink the way that I was purchasing the properties. To be honest with you, I thought, well, I do want to continue to buy properties because I really enjoy making the deals. I enjoy owning the properties. I enjoy the whole thing.
So it's a blast, isn't it? It is an absolute blast.
It's a lot of fun. But it made me think, sort of sit back and try to get a little more creative. So what I've done in the past month or so is I went and opened up 3 lines of credit with the bank. So I actually paid cash for one of the properties last year. And so I took that property and I'm using it as collateral on a line of credit at a small portfolio lender that I've got here in St. Louis. And then I actually used the equity in my primary home as another line of credit. And then I took about $100,000 worth of stock, and I'm using it as collateral on a third line of credit. So that gives me 3 lines of credit. And then my plan is, and the properties I'm actually going to go look at this afternoon kind of fit this, but the plan is to buy more distressed type properties, go ahead and pay cash for them out of the line of credit, go ahead and, bring people in to get those things rehabbed and fixed up. And then hopefully I can get the appraisal value up over the cost of what I've got into the properties enough that I can borrow against that then, or, against those properties.
And get the bulk of your money back.
It does. And my plan is to actually replenish the lines of credit and then continue to do that. So it gives me a good way to continue to invest with really not a lot of money out of my pocket anymore.
That's a great strategy, and if you're buying distressed properties and you know your market well, chances are you will be able to get the lion's share of your money back out of them. And for those of you that don't have the advantages that Mack has here with the ability to borrow against an asset. You can do the same thing with investors. You can find equity investors and split the deals. That's how I bought probably my first 200 houses, and 50-50 investors put up the money. I do all the work, and then we pay cash and we refinance it out and get them the bulk of their money back, and they stay in the deal as an equity partner. It's a sweet deal for everybody. So but that's a great strategy, Mack, and chances are, with your knowledge of that market at this point, from having been involved already and been so successful, you'll be able to accomplish that. And even if you don't get it all back, with your cash flow, it'll replenish it fairly quickly anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So tell me about what sort of training or education you gave yourself. I don't know if you're self-taught or if you went and saw somebody at a seminar, if you read some books. Tell us about what you did there.
The majority of the knowledge that I've picked up has just been a lot of research on the internet. I've been, to a number of podcasts, yours included.
Thank you.
And talking to a lot of experts. I also have joined the local RIA here in St. Louis. Actually, there's a couple of local RIAs here. And it's great to be able to network with people that have been investing for a while. It also gives me a lot of exposure to not just investors, but wholesalers, just all sorts of things that people do in the real estate that sort of opens your eyes to what's possible. So it's all self-taught. I never had a guru come in and show me how to do anything, but there's a lot of research. There's so much information out on the internet and just in the general ether that you can go pick up that I guarantee you can never stop learning about real estate.
No question. So let me ask you this. Let me ask you your opinion on a couple of things. One is, what type of person do you think would be best suited for multifamily real estate investing like you're doing? Is there a type or some personality traits that you think make the chances of success more possible?
So I think that the main thing that it requires is someone that will take action, right? You can learn all day long, but if you don't take action and go do something, you're never going to make things kind of work for you. For me, in multifamily, it seemed to, if you look at multifamily versus single family, what I was always afraid of going into it was I'd get a single family home and then it would rent for a couple of months and I've got a single stream of income coming in that I'm out for those couple of months. So for me, multifamily seemed to make a lot of sense. If I had 3 or 4 people, renting a property and I lost, a renter off of one part of that property, I've still got income coming in. And I try to buy them so that 1 or 2 of the units will actually make the loan payment for me. So at least that much is covered. I say the same thing. That's great. Now keep going. I'm sorry. I really think the primary thing, and I've seen so many investors, even, as short a time as I've been in, I've seen people that have been studying and trying to figure out how the market works and looking at podcasts and talking to gurus, and they've done it for 2 or 3 years, and they're just about ready to go do something. And, I think to be successful, you have to take the time to really learn, but you also have to take the initiative to go do something. You have to get in the game.
Fantastic advice, and yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have to be doing both simultaneously. You need to be out there looking at real estate, making offers while you're studying, and go out there and immerse yourself in it. Meet the brokers, go look at the properties, go evaluate the fix-ups, do market analysis on the rents, see what you think you can do on a property. Do like people do in the stock market where they trade, where they're not actually using their own money. You can do that as well with real estate. Just get out there and study deals. And it's as much of an education, if not more, than learning from a seminar or a book. By the way, on books, do you have any books that you liked about this, or did you get it all online? I know you said you got a lot of your stuff online, but are there any books that you might recommend?
Well, I think pretty much everyone that's in real estate probably has read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and for me that was a game changer. It's the thing that really made me start thinking about passive income and how that works, and really sort of changed my relationship with money. So I'd say that was a big one.
Sure.
One of the other ones that I'm in the middle of it right now is The Miracle Morning, and it's not really about real estate, but it does have to do with setting the appropriate state of mind and making sure that you're focused on goals, and that one for me is a huge book as well.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. I'm going to check that one out myself. Now, what is your ultimate goal here? I mean, you're very successful. You've been with your company for years, one of the the biggest company in the world, I know, for software. And why are you in real estate? Why are you screwing around with real estate? What's your ultimate goal?
So, it's funny. I really, to be honest with you, wouldn't have done anything with real estate except that I bought a lake house and it was going to be a retirement home. But the thing is, it's a huge house, and the utilities on that house were extremely high. So to kind of offset that, I bought some solar panels, and that cost me around $55,000. And the nice thing about that was it would have I think it was a 15-year payback on the panels. I thought, well, that's not bad. And then the next thing was it also runs on propane, which is very expensive. So I was looking to see what I could use to offset that. And when we started talking about geothermal, the quotes I got in were $100,000 for geothermal. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could buy a rent house and make enough off of that to be able to get that back. And then that little seed germinated somewhat, and that's what actually got me to buy the first one. And so after
just being able to offset your costs, and that, you're blessed that you have a vacation house, but, for somebody that's just got a job, just being able to offset maybe their income, even, or exactly. Some other expense in their life. So you saw an expense, and you saw real estate as an opportunity to offset that expense.
I definitely did. And then as I got further into it, I've always had investments in the stock market, and they've always done fairly well for me. But the thing that I don't like about the stock market is someone else is in charge of my money, and I really have to rely on them making good decisions to make sure that my money is doing well. So I always wanted a way to diversify. And so what I've started doing is taking, a fairly good chunk of that out, and my plan is to continue to diversify that back into real estate. I won't ever get out of the market entirely, but I do like the fact that I can control what happens with real estate, and I'm the guy making the deals. So I'm the person that's a lot more in charge of what those look like. Ultimately,
absolutely.
To be honest with you, I don't have the runway that, had I done this when I was 30 years old, I think that, I could have a pretty big company by the time I got to be 55 or 60. Starting at 55 and going forward, to be honest with you, my goal really is to get to about 35 units, maybe 40 units. And I think that will be enough to really sort of augment the income I've got in retirement and to help me, achieve all the things that I want to do in retirement.
Absolutely. No, there's nothing better. And that's why the podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And you're a great example of that in process. Now, let me ask you this. Are you managing your own property then, I take it?
I'm not. I actually have a...
Oh, you're not?
No, okay. I was afraid that as I got into it, especially, the experience I had when I was a young man, not screening renters appropriately, I just thought, well, I really don't want to have to do this, and I don't want to go be working on toilets in the middle of the night when I have things I have to do, the next day at work. So
Sure.
I was lucky enough to find a really great realtor. And the realtor I use is also an investor, and she has had her own property management company for a while as well. So she actually manages all my properties for me as well.
And she's doing a good job.
Oh, she's doing a fantastic job. You know, I
Just
hear
out of curiosity,
from,
what's she charging? What's she charging? And then I want to hear the war stories.
So she's charging me 10%. And
10%,
what I do
okay.
is make sure that I buy the properties in such a way that I account for that. And then so far I've been lucky enough to be able to do that and still have great cash flow out of them too.
Okay. What war stories? She's told you war stories. I got you. Yeah, I could tell you war stories too.
Other investors as well have told me, man, they just hate using property managers. But I've just really had good luck with her the whole time that I've been
you might have. Yeah, sounds like you found a good one. And I will tell you that typically I advise against using a management company. I've managed my own stuff for 30 plus years now, and the problem being you typically have to manage the manager, but you're very generous in what you're paying her. I will tell you, and I would renegotiate that once you get much bigger. But I am also familiar with the St. Louis market because my wife's from Belleville, which is over on the other side of the river there.
Oh yeah,
and,
yeah.
So I know it quite well, but. No, and that's, with you having a full-time gig, I see how important that would be. And like I say, you're very lucky, but if you're going to use a management company, you need to screen them as well as you would a tenant, maybe even better. And you don't want one that's too big. And you don't want one that you're their only client. You want to find somebody like Max found here that's, still does real estate, maybe as a realtor. I've used a realtor on my Memphis properties, and that worked fairly well when I just had 10 houses left up there. So, okay, well that's super. So, one more question here. What suggestions would you have for someone starting out in real estate investing? What I know that you mentor some people. You mentioned that to me previously at your RIA group. Tell me what you would suggest to them if you gave them a little pearl of wisdom.
The thing I think that's important is, first of all, you've got to get educated. You got to know what you're doing, or you can really get yourself in trouble with real estate. So I think that's the key. First of all, you have to start learning, and you have to continue to learn. But, I think, especially if you're thinking about a younger person, and I'm saying this because my son wants to start investing too. And the thing that I told him was really, as a young person, it probably would be good for you to partner up with someone. Find someone that's been in the business for a while that really kind of knows what they're doing. Find a way that you can provide value back to that person. And then, bring them a deal. Go analyze deals until you find something that works. Bring them a deal. Ask for a cut of the deal. Doesn't have to be 50-50, but it's a great way for you to learn the ropes and actually get started. And to be honest with you, that's a really good way to start.
I love it. Absolutely love it. That is fantastic advice. Is there a question I haven't asked you that you wish I had? Is there something you'd like to expand on maybe that maybe I hadn't asked you about?
Well, one of the things that I think is really important, Rod, is, it's not all about just the investor. It's actually about the team that you build to go to make things happen, right? And okay. So I'll tell you, I'm really proud of the team that I pulled together. I did a lot of research when I got my CPA, when I got my lawyer, when I got my real estate agent, all those people that are helping me. I made sure that they either were investors themselves or that they, like in the case of my CPA, she deals with a lot of books for other investors. So she knows that business really well. And so, as I form that team, I want people that are people of integrity, first of all, and then I want people that know the industry, and I want people that are experts in their field. And so, I think part of the success that you have with real estate is the type of team that you pull together to help you, because no one person can do it. And so, to me, building the right team is just super critical.
I couldn't agree more. That's also great advice. Now, let me ask a question for the people that don't have a team put together yet. Tell me how you went about finding this team. Did you just do it by asking brokers, asking friends? How did you find these people that you're very happy with?
Well, I stayed away from friends because I don't really have any friends that invest in real estate very much. But
fair enough.
I did spend a lot of time in the RIA talking to other investors to ask, and who do they use? And then I would interview those people. So I actually interviewed 2 or 3 different lawyers until I found one that sort of had the same philosophy and mentality that I do. And that was the guy that, he came recommended from other investors. And then, after talking with him, he really felt like the person that I could get along with and work with really well. Same thing with the CPA. So a lot of it came about from just the local RIA and asking other investors who they use, getting recommendations, and then interviewing those people.
Fantastic. As I mentioned to you, we're getting near the end of the show here, and I just have one thing that is really dear to my heart that I want to ask you about. As I mentioned, sometimes we do these driving force episodes about the psychology of success and talk about goals and things of that nature. Where do you get your drive? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning to conquer the world and drives you?
I've always been pretty goal oriented. But I tell you, I read a book, I think it was maybe last year or the year before last, called The One Thing. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't. That's great. Another good one.
It's another great book. So it really, for the first time, gave me a way to set goals in a way that made sense to me. Prior to reading that book, I would set goals and I would work toward those goals. And I always did, pretty well with that. But this book actually laid it out in such a way that you look at a long-term goal for a year, and then you break down what are the components of that I can get done. What's the one thing I can do this month that will ensure that I hit that goal by the end of the year? And then what's the one thing I can do this week that will ensure I get that one thing done by the end of the month, that will make sure I get that goal by the end of the year?
Wow.
And then finally,
I love that.
What's the one thing this week that gets me to the month, that gets me to the year? And then what's the one thing that I can do today that will ensure that if I do it continuously for the next 5 days, I get to that week and then it moves up. And that single philosophy has made a huge change in my life. And then incorporating that into what I'm doing with the Miracle Morning is just a fantastic way to set your direction correctly and make sure that you're moving the right way.
Love it. Great stuff. In fact, I'm definitely going to run out and get that One Thing book. I totally see the value in that mindset with goals. I'm big on goals. In fact, just this morning released an episode on goal setting. It's a whole workshop that people can download, a goal setting guide, and go through the workshop with me. It's not one of these podcasts you can listen to on the phone or in the car while you're working out. You actually have to be sitting and writing. But that's great advice with that One Thing book. Listen, I really appreciate your time, Mack. You've added a lot of value to the listeners today, and I hope we can stay in touch and keep an eye on each other's progress.
Yeah, sounds great, Rod. I really appreciate being on the program. I really, I think what you're doing is a valuable thing. Anytime that you can share knowledge with people, it always comes back to you, and that's my big philosophy as well.
Couldn't agree more. Listen, you take care. Talk soon.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and then take a moment to visit iTunes and leave a 5-star rating and review. For more resources to connect with us further, please visit our website at lifetimecashflowpodcast.com. Tune in next week for our next show.